So I'm going to go through how to, in our last video, we went through having kind of like using night vision in different colors to create different effects. And so now we are going to create a flashlight for our character. And so that flashlight is going to be able to be activated. We can rotate around. And this all started out with me getting ready for a Call of Cthulhu game and realizing there were no flashlight things that I could find. So, you got to have a flashlight in Call of Cthulhu because it needs to be able to go out at the wrong time. So, here we go. We're going to build out the macro and the API that we want to be able to use. So let's look at this real quick. So here is one way you could do this. So there is the token mod API that you can get. And if you know all these properties, you can set them as you go. And this is pretty neat. It's very easy to do this for anyone. I want to do more with my flashlight than just kind of modify some token properties. I'd like to have eventually where, there's a timer, maybe there's a flicker to it, maybe there's, it just goes out randomly and then comes back on randomly. I kind of want to do some more stuff with it here. So this is very good for just a straightforward turn it on. So I'm going to change this though. We're going to call this flashlight. And the way I like to do this is I write out what I want it to be, and then I'm going to go build the API to have it. So we'll say 25 for like a distance, like how far do we want it to go, and we'll say 20 for how wide we want it to be. Because really that's, who's doing it, how far is it going, and how wide is it? These are, you could also add in here, is it bright light? Is it low light? What are we working with here? Lots you can do there. But for now, I'm going to leave it at this right here, okay? And make it a token action. Now, if I click this, nothing happens because I don't have a flashlight API. So we're going to go over here and create a new script for flashlight, okay? All right, now I have actually written this code already on another screen, and that way you don't have to see me fat finger and have to go back and debug and update and all that good stuff. We're going to skip that and make editing much easier on myself. So here we go. All right, so the first thing I always do is like to put in my namespace that I'm going to have my content use. And then we always have, well, since I'm using the chat, I'm using this here and close that if out. So when the chat message comes in, we're going to check to see if it came from the API, and if it came from if flashlight is the very first part of the content that comes in. So remember back, let's flip back over here. We look at flashlight. The very first part here is flashlight. Okay, so index 0, we'll be looking at this guy here. All right, so we'll see if it came from the API, if it starts with flashlight. And now we're going to do some quick logging and getting who's speaking. So I always like to put in a log entry to say when this, the API script is starting, and that way I just know, is it running or not? What's going on here? And then we're going to find the character and the player. And that way when we do our message at the very end, we can say who has sent this information. Okay. So one of the things I like to do is see if things I'm doing work along the way. So I'm going to just put some spaces in there. And here, at this point, we can save out here. All right. Starting up a new sandbox. Okay. And at this point, we're missing this output string. But you could go test out, if we add that in real quick. Add that, save. Okay, let's go try out our script here. So I have my character here. Let's go look here and hit flashlight. And it posts a message with my name in it, which is pretty much all we have set up right here. So this is a good shell that you can just start doing stuff inside of. So let's do some stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to get my parameters. Okay. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to split the message here to get different parts of the string. Now, you can do that with spaces, except right here, there could be a space in that character's name. So I'm going to do this in a slightly different way. I'm going to use a pipe. So pipe delimited. Okay, which means I have to go back to my macro. All right, and I'm going to go back here and create these pipes. And that way, when I split up my parameters, I can split on a pipe. All right, and for this will be resolved to the character's name before that split happens. So that should be just fine for us. Okay. So I'm going to get 4 parameters. So the first one, parameter 0, is the word flashlight. The next parameter is going to be the token name, selected token's name, then the length of the flashlight and the brightness of the flashlight. Now, I already knew this before I started, so when I did that whole macro setup, I kind of knew what I was already going to use, but that's still a good way to sketch out how do you want this thing to work, and then go make it work like that. Okay, so now I'm going to put in an error check, just from a, maybe something doesn't get read right, or maybe I forgot to put in the parameters I need. So creating an error check here, be kind to your users. If I was building this for a whole bunch of other people to use, I would put this as an output message and not just an error in the API, because nobody's going to see that. And now I'm going to pull the token because I'm going to basically be working with the dynamic lighting on the token. So let's go back. Let's activate our flashlight. Okay. Now let's go look at our token's properties. So under dynamic lighting, we can see that it emits 30 feet of bright light and that directional light is in a 25-foot radius. Okay, we're 25 degrees of directional light there. So that's what we want to end up doing. All right, we go turn the flashlight off. We look back at our character and we see bright light is turned off, directional light is deactivated as well. Okay, so I need to get that token because I got to turn that light on for the token. So I find the token. And I'm going to grab this if block here, which is going to check to make sure I actually got a token. In theory, I should always get a token, but you never know. So perhaps the token's name has changed in between when this started and when I get to here. I don't know. Whatever happened, we just want to make sure we get a token here. And then we're going to work with that the token's found. It's the first token. So if you have multiple tokens with the same name, you're going to have an issue here. But again, this isn't building enterprise software. This is a tutorial for you to learn how to use directional lighting to create a flashlight. So don't panic on its robustness. Okay, then you go in here to token name, token.get name. Okay, so we're going to get the name, so we don't have to keep calling token get name in a little bit. All right, so now the next part of this, if you wanted to just turn the flashlight on, you could do that here. But I want one button that turns the flashlight on and turns the flashlight off. So to do that, I need to store what tokens have a flashlight turned on. So I'm going to do that back up at the top here with this token flashlights array. It's an array. So we're just creating an empty array here. All right. So now inside of here, I'm going to add a block of code. And we'll talk through it in a moment here. Okay. So the first thing is I say, hey, I'm starting to check for existing flashlight. Flashlight on is set to false. Very important here. Flashlight capital L, light, capital O, on. So you might be able to guess one of my sticking points here. I missed my naming convention. So make sure you stick with your naming convention and don't type something like this, because this is a totally different variable than this. And when you check for the if statement that we're going to do next, and you're looking for this or this, it's not going to have the right value. So don't do that. Be consistent. Use tools like Visual Studio Code to help you be consistent. It's a really nice free tool to do all kinds of nice code. I really enjoy it. All right, so we're going to use a for loop. So for I equals 0, we have var here because we're declaring I as a variable. We're setting its value to 0. As long as I is less than this token flashlight's length, then add to I. So the first time we run through will be at 0. The second time we run through will be at 1. Third time we run through will be at 2. It just counts up, iterates up. Okay. So now inside of that for loop, we're going to say if making adventures, token flashlights, the index that we're on. So remember I said when we first start it'll be 0, so it'll be the first entry. We're going to get the name, and if it equals token name, then the flashlight's on, and we set flashlight on to true. If it doesn't equal token name, continue on, and we will go through that loop. Okay. Then I'm writing out to the log if the flashlight is on, just for me to know. And we're going to get into an if statement. And this is actually the last block of code for this area. And what I'm doing is saying, okay, if the flashlight is on, turn it off. If anything other than on, then if it's, anything other than true, this is false, null, undefined, whatever, then we're going to turn the flashlight on. I'm passing in the token and the parameters. Okay. So here also you can see we're setting the output string. All right. So let's now implement turn off and turn on. All right. So save. Although this at this point won't work because we don't have turn off or turn on. And we will get an angry message from the API. Okay, so just like I like to say when I'm starting here, I like to do that in the functions too. So here we go, making adventure turn on. So the log, turn it on. And then using the token that got passed in, I'm going to set a whole bunch of properties. And so I'm just setting these properties based on the parameters, setting those to numbers, and going through for each of the properties I want to do. So if you wanted to do low light, emits low light, or whatever you wanted to do here with the distance, or maybe partially low light, partially bright light, it's up to you. Do whatever you want to do, but token.set is the way to do it. So we're going to set those things. And then I add the token to the array of token flashlights. Post a little message to say flashlight's turned on, and we're all set. Okay, now let's turn off the flashlight. And again, you can get as fancy as you want with your turn on and turn off functions. Like maybe you want to add something in here to play a sound, or maybe you want a special effect to occur. That is all up to you. You can get as creative as you want in here. Okay, so turning off function, we're passing in a token. So what we're going to do, first we say we're turning it off, then we're going to get the token name. Okay, So I didn't pass the token name directly in here because I just passed in token and I can get the name. If you want to save this get request here and not have to do it because you've done it before, you can pass in the token name as well. I haven't seen too much performance impact here, so I'll just kind of left it there. Then I'm going to go through, loop through the flashlights again. And if I find a match on the name, just like we were looking before, I take the token out of the array and then set on the token, I turn off all that light stuff that I had. Okay, so all the lights that I turned on here, I turn off down here. And if I don't find it, oops, we don't need that block of code here. Okay, so because I is going to automatically integrate up here, or iterate up there. So here we go, turned off. All right, now at this point, I go to save, and I think we got everything. So now let's give it a try. The key here is in the turn on, like whatever properties you want to turn on, here's where to do it. So now flashlight, another debugging thing is make sure this matches whatever your macro says. And then I know supposedly when I save it, it does this stuff. But I don't know, man. I always like to hit that restart API sandbox. Maybe that's just me being weird. I don't know. But I find that sometimes I get surprises I'm not expecting. As soon as I restart the sandbox, things are working as expected. So I get in that habit. Okay, so here we are. Let's go take a look at our API, or our macro. So here we go. Flashlight, pipe, at selected token name, 25 length, 20 degrees radius there, or 20 degrees span. All right, let's give it a try. And there's our flashlight. So let's look at what Coupe sees. And as you turn, you got your flashlight. So this is good. You can do some nice stuff with this. And flashlight turns off when I turn it off. And if we go look over here at our lovely script, you can see turns it on, turns it off, turns it on, turns it off. So if I go to this again, on, off. All right, so that's it. So creating a flashlight. So you can get as creative as you want with your flashlights. I hope you enjoy and do some fun stuff with it. If you do anything really fun with your flashlights, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it because, this is all about creativity and fun. So go have some fun with some flashlights. Call of Cthulhu, add your flashlights, have them go out at the wrong time for the players. One last thing on that is if you want your players to be able to see the token or the action to turn on their flashlights, you can do it right here. But if you leave that blank, you will not be able to share that, or players won't see that. So you can do some nice stuff where you turn off people's flashlights unexpectedly. Makes for fun. Remember, dynamic lighting is all about adding drama to your game. Okay. Hope you enjoyed this, and go be creative. Thanks for your time.